E andiamo all'ultima tavola rotonda dedicata al...
So let's move on now to our last roundtable, dedicated to responsible innovation.
Bene, no? Allora, innovazione responsabile...
So responsible innovation, I'd like to call onto the stage Carlo Cozza, CEO of Campus Party Global, Luigi Galimberti, CEO of Sfera Agricola, Carlo Robiglio, President of SMEs for Confindustria, Tiziano Tassi, CEO and partner of Caffeina, Simona Torre, Secretary General of Accenture Fondazione Italiana, and Federico Vecchioni, CEO of Bonifiche Ferraresi.
Allora, io intanto devo capire chi siete perché posa, perfetto, ottimo. Noi ci siamo già visti prima.
No, più che altro perché sono l'unica
esatto.
donna.
Allora, io partirei parlando di una storia interessante, di un cambiamento, di un'innovazione fatta dopo aver, diciamo, transitato da un settore apparentemente, anzi senza...
A seemingly distant sector, farming to building construction, and the development of a best practice that it might be worth probing. Luigi Galimberti, CEO of Sfera Agricola, why don't we begin with a video, because it'll give me the time to have a glass of water too. One day I had a great idea. Better agriculture to produce more with less. In a great place, the Maremma region of Tuscany, and then work, work, work. Using method with a great team, to monitor every process, 190 highly motivated employees, to create the biggest high-tech greenhouse in Italy. 13 hectares of greenhouses in one place to produce fruit and vegetables, without using pesticides, nickel-free, healthy, good and tasty. Saving 90% of water, 100% sustainable, sferaagricola.it. So in 2009, there was a company, a building construction company that had 250 employees. Then the construction crisis kicked in, and this happened all over Italy. 500 jobs were lost, at least in the industry, but this didn't stop your entrepreneurial spirit, and it didn't stop you from looking further afield, because building construction wouldn't be the first thing you start thinking about if you're in a crisis. Why did you go into farming, and how did you get to that decision? Well, morning everyone, and thank you very much for inviting you. The first thing, the main thing that drove me was desperation, because it wasn't just, easy to start up again after 20 years in the business. I turned transformation into determination, and then I think I really heard the call that by 2050 the population of the world will be exploding and there'll be not enough food and water to feed everyone. I decided that it was interesting to think about farming, producing more with less. And I looked around and I discovered that there were a lot of things available, but not in Italy. In Northern Europe and elsewhere, certain things were standard practice, but not here. We had a structural issue. The farmer, who is not bankable, who can't manage complexity, and Sfera is based on a number of past experiences, including construction, because building big greenhouses in Italy is difficult because there are so few standards, there is so few to build upon. But you decided to go ahead with the best technologies, the best practices, and we found them. Yes, we found them all over the world. We looked for the best available. We consolidated it. There's no innovation at Sfera other than in certain aspects. We brought in the best management techniques, the best innovations to produce tomatoes initially, and we can produce a kilo of tomatoes with 2 litres of water versus 75 in an open field. Of the 2 litres, 80% is recovered from rainwater and moisture in the air. And do you sell your tomatoes to Conad, or are they fussy? No, they are our number one client. So there's process control, and it's absolutely crazy because sustainability for us is across the board, management, people, processes, etc. So process control also enabled us to produce the first nickel-free tomato. Tomatoes absorb minerals from the soil. We do not have soil because it's hydroponic. Our processes are hydroponic, and so we produce the very first nickel-free tomato in the world. And in Italy, 30% of Italian women don't eat tomatoes because they're allergic to nickel. And the latest thing that we've started doing, and we'll be certified by the end of the month for this, is that we also have the first residue-free tomatoes by the end of the month. We use no pesticides, we use biological organic farming practices, and our treatments are plant by plant. And okay, well, let's move to a larger scale operation that uses traditional processes from Bonifica Ferrarese. You were talking about greenhouses, but in your case, innovation is a big deal. And how have you increased your productivity thanks to innovation? Well, first of all, traditionally, well, we're not really traditional altogether because we have 6,500 hectares where we apply for Agriculture 4.0. We use satellites to monitor the needs of the soil, and to do that, we've really pushed forward. We've mapped all of our land, and we're giving the soil what it needs, whether it's water or seed or whatever. So, of course, this makes it all traceable because we're rather an unusual farming operation because we have 6 factories within our system. So we're basically a farm and an industry at the same time. And the process innovation that we have in place starts from the assumption that you need to cultivate crops sustainably, in an environmentally friendly way. We do that using satellites. We use satellites to map the soil. We then you have to produce sustainably, and instead of outsourcing, instead of going onto the market, we've built 6 factories in-house. And of course, then you have to take your products to market. And there, sustainability is not just a question of an economic model, but it's also an industrial and productive model. And when these are well matched, then the model is a successful one, because this is what we think sets us aside. Sustainability isn't always something that the consumer has to pay more for, because otherwise it turns into a luxury product. What Bonifica Ferrarese thinks is that sustainability is a good thing, and for it to be a good thing, it has to be affordable, and therefore the price position has to make sure that the consumer can trace the product from the seed to the supermarket, and the process itself has to be totally controlled, totally inspected, and it is, because it's all in-house.
Confindustria abbiamo la grande impresa.
Okay, now we have large businesses and small businesses, and they're linked by the fil rouge of technology. So it isn't that you always need a huge budget in order to be innovative. I think this can help our system because we have so many small and medium-sized enterprises. So, yes, I think that this is quite right. Technology and innovation help the small businesses if, of course, they want to managerialize their business, and they can acquire skills and innovate. But since we're talking about sustainability, well, innovation must be linked to the concept of sustainability more and more, because we can no longer conceive of innovation unless there is sustainability, whether it be economic sustainability for the business, but also environmental and social sustainability as well. My colleague, Mrs. Ravello, spoke about this already. In any case, small enterprises in Italy, more than ever before, are fully aware of the importance of innovation. They're also aware of the fact that it has to be sustainable. So surely Confindustria needs to push this enterprise culture, to foster it, because these small businesses and entrepreneurs can take this leap, but they have to be aware of the fact that they indeed are able to do so, and that's the difficult job. I followed the story of the businessman sitting here next to me. It is a case of resilience, which is a word that is becoming more and more popular nowadays when we talk about small businesses and sustainability. So resilience, thousands of our colleagues, because of the crisis in 2008 to 2013, they've managed to use the situation as a change driver. So resilience is also a good word for San Patrignano, because the people here can turn a difficult moment into an opportunity for development. So this is what small businesses are doing. And with resilience, we are now aware of a social responsibility that we have vis-à-vis our areas, our communities, not only our businesses, and therefore communities can get back what they have received. So it is a huge paradigm shift for businesses, especially for the smaller ones, and that's what we need to speed up here at Confindustria. Carlo Cozza, Managing Director of Campus Party Global. On the subject of innovation, we're not talking about technology, but about connections. Now, you've organized a global event in 12 different cities around the world with millennials, with youth. And in our panel discussions, we've often said that this is the novel element of this year. In climate change matters, we have this new phenomenon that started in Sweden, and it's gone viral, global. So from the bottom up, it is encouraging change. So what can you say about those events? Well, yes, we create these events, these ecosystems that are gigantic. We're talking about 2,500, 3,000 square meters, more or less. And in that surface, on that surface, we pool, we get together thousands of youngsters who sleep in tents and who spend days together. And together with businesses, the ones that are more sensitive to these issues, they create extraordinary results. And we do this around the world. We are superstars in some places. In Italy, it's a bit more difficult to get things done sometimes. But when you get together all these talents, the highest concentration of talents per square meter, I mean, something's bound to happen. Just think of the businesses that have been established in the past 20 years. Most of them have been established by young men and women, and lots of graduates have fled their countries. They've gone elsewhere, and they are the real innovators. Now, our role in the world, our desire to ensure sustainability, well, this is something we try to convey to these youth and to the companies, the businesses that are enlightened and that are therefore following us, that are sponsoring our huge happenings, our events. So we try to convey the message that innovation must be sustainable. Our results are extraordinary, are remarkable. And these youngsters set up startups when they, get their minds together. They think up all sorts of innovative ideas for businesses that tend to resist change. Of course, there are larger enterprises that can afford to be responsible, as it were. In any case, the real form of innovation can only occur through open innovation. What does that mean? My friend Donald from NASA says to me, your friend Donald Trump, is that who you meant? No. Actually, he's an opponent of Trump's. My friend Donald at NASA says, okay, Carlo, if we need to solve a problem and we ask 10 of our engineers to try it, to solve it, they will definitely solve it, but then all the solutions, that all 10 of them will be the same. Instead, if we ask the same question to your 600,000 youth, we get so many different ideas, so varied. And one of those can be used by our engineers to become the real solution for the problem. That's open innovation. And these youngsters have sustainability in their DNA. And I'm very optimistic about the future when I see these youth. And I try not to wear a jacket and tie because I want to feel that I'm like them. Okay, well, the managing director of Caffeine deals with digital creativity. So there's been a boom in social media, so I'm sure that this has all been positive for you. What is your role, not only in helping and supporting the traditional brands, the more traditional and consolidated enterprises that promote themselves through social media, but what about others? What kind of advantage is there?
Well, thank you very much for your invitation to be here today. I'd like to say hello to all the boys and girls that are here, the guys, the girls that are here, that are at San Patrignano. I see them at work and I see what they're doing, and it's great. Yes, Caffeina. It relies on social media, but also the broader digital offering to provide organisation in pursuing their corporate goals. There's a lot of potential in that respect, I think, because as we heard before, we're talking about adopting tools, instruments that companies use in the private sector to understand what you can draw from them without rejecting, making differences between the public and private sectors. And I see them coming together very profitably in order to help foundations and organizations to pursue their corporate social goals. And we are very fortunate, we're privileged to be working with the Italian Cancer Research Institute and the Italian National Trust. And we use digital tools to help them inform people, raise awareness, convey solutions as well. So we help the Italian National Trust to map all the artistic various sites, heritage sites, and to rally support for these sites. And we also use innovation to drive change. We need people to take that approach on board. And thanks to digital developments, there are many more tools at our disposal. We've got the usual ones, of course. We've got, banners, posters, and so on. But we've got many other means as well. We've got social media, and we know how powerful they can be for the good, for positive causes, for the worst, when you're talking about fake news and such. And then there are other tools which, thanks to technology, facilitate interactions, facilitate connectivity between this organisation and people. So there are opportunities, huge opportunities there, and now they're available to companies large and small. So digital platforms, yes, as developed by the Italian Accenture Foundation. Simona Torre, General Secretary of the Board of the Foundation, is here with us today because that is a platform that you make available to various kinds of associations to run competitions, to develop projects, etc., at reasonable costs. Yes, that's true. Our operating model, like many other foundations, is to run competitions, tenders, calling calls for ideas, because that's the best way to enable our offerings to be taken up. A few years back, we began operating in this field. We were supported by Accenture, of course, which was keen to get this on track effectively and very stably. So we decided to come up with a technology platform to facilitate everything, to put everything online, and to basically make everything more efficient. And of course, the efficiency did come out and turned into both efficiency and effectiveness, because we obviously partner other parties, profit and non-profit, companies, other foundations, etc. And I think we've actually triggered a great deal of curiosity as to whether the platform could be used by others and used independently as well. So we found there was a need. Perhaps it was an unperceived need at the time, but we were able to convey how important innovation is for non-profit and the voluntary sector, the third sector. Everybody involved in social impact, and technology can help. It really can. There are high-tech processes that can be applied and leveraged for the greater good. So what we've understood over the past few years is that we're talking about a technology platform that can be expanded, enriched. It can be also better understood in order to make various initiatives more effective, and also to raise the standards, the quality level of the results. Yes, well, we're rapidly getting to the end of our event, so I would give each of you a minute and a half, starting with Galimberti. So you had a couple of hundred employees several years ago when you started. Well, yes, in 2018, we finished building our greenhouse and started actually producing produce. And over the past few months, the Q2 2019, we've got the machine humming along very effectively, and we're ready to scale it up. My plan is, over the next 10 years, to cover a much greater area with our high-tech greenhouses to produce tomatoes. But you've still got the construction industry in your heart, have you not? Well, a little bit, yes. But just a comment on sustainability, about sharing cultures. Well, our greenhouse is worth 20 million euros, and we had 250 people working there. We're located in Tuscany, in the Maremma region. We completed the construction without a single serious accident, and we were able to do that6because we had cleanliness, safety, sustainability, and they're all factors that are part of our DNA and everybody shares.
Carlo Cozza, what is the most original idea that has come out of your meetings with millennials? Well, there have been so many, it's hard to just pick one of them. So we have all these youth get together. They're there to work for businesses, but also to save the world. In other words, they're not attracted because they want a prize or an award, but they're doing something for the planet. That's their goal. Now, the most amazing thing we've done is the Guinness World Record of the biggest social hackathon in Mexico. Thousands of youth worked on one issue, and that was to fight poverty through technology. And some extraordinary ideas came out. A 16-year-old boy won, and I could talk to you about this for, I think at least 10 days, but I know that we don't have that much time. Antonio Posa, you are the marketing director of Bonifiche Ferraresi. If you want to convey a message to the market in order to sell a product, how much help can a sustainability label be? Well, it's not really a value added. It is an actual need. And unless you are sustainable in the next few years, you won't be selling anything because that's the direction the market has taken. And the integrated supply chain means to recoup an Italian farming system that we were losing. So grain, cereals, rice, olives, vegetables, they all become a brand and they have very unique characteristics. So sustainability and accessibility are important. Okay, what is the most important campaign that you have run in terms of a non-profit campaign? Non-profit, not-for-profit. Well, the Italian Environmental Fund projects that we've been following now for about 5 or 6 years. We started right after the establishment of Caffeina, and this makes us really proud because there are people working in the platform. That's what it is, because technology helps us communicate and it makes the interaction possible. But there is an additional goal to the one that we have in Caffeina. We want to help managers, the people that we work with in the fund, in order to achieve a goal which is broader, which is bigger. It isn't just a question of making money. No, it has to be a tangible goal, target, which has to be positive for the community. It has a different purpose, in other words. We've considered tens of thousands of different places that have been indicated by users all over the world, and the Italian Environmental Fund therefore has a clear-cut map of all the locations, even the forgotten locations that perhaps aren't available in any central registries of institutions or entities, but they are identified, they are picked out, because we have this distributed approach, and all the people who are out there on the ground want those locations to be protected, then they want them to be cleaned up and reclaimed, as it were, for the community.
Apart from what I was saying before, we want to continue injecting technological innovation, processes and skills for managing it effectively throughout the third sector, the voluntary sector, for social impact specifically. Together with the sustainability, what drives us is competitions. A competition we run every year. We try to connect young people, on the one hand, with their ideas and their sensitivity, their awareness, their interest in sustainability, with companies, with the corporate sector, who are looking for people, for young hires with such interests. So we try to bring them together. And again, it's a competition for brilliant ideas. The kids come along with their ideas. They may be very much in their infancy, but they do suggest a mindset, a specific type of mindset. And then we have the companies, on the other hand, that offer experience, to the work experience to young people. And in the case of Lavazza, who's here today, sometimes they offer work experience in the actual countries where their suppliers are located, so that the kids can actually see where products come from. So these are two worlds that we bring together to move in the direction of sustainability. Carlo Robiglio from Confindustria. Based on your discussions with your colleagues, the entrepreneurs, the small and medium-sized companies, what are their reactions when you suggest options for achieving sustainability to your members? Are there people that actually say, well, let's start, making a profit and then we'll move on? Well, the interesting thing is that over the past couple of years, things have changed. There have been huge improvements. Not a couple of years ago, there was a fear fear. There was a lot of uncertainty about meeting certain needs and requirements. Were it decided to innovate a company with a view to environmental sustainability, etc., because there were fears that the costs would be too high. People believed that it might not be within the reach of a small company, whereas today there is a greater awareness that it is possible, and I think we've realized that even innovating in light of sustainability can become a driver of profitability. So earlier we heard about a survey that was run recently on the SME Welfare Index, and companies have stated that 63% of companies have observed higher productivity through adopting sustainable practices. So, in fact, sustainability can make companies more productive, while at the same time not just sustainable, but also profitable and competitive on the market. Yes, that's absolutely true. Best practices and also telling the stories of best practices is what enables companies to take new steps in novel directions. So obviously not everything can be done online. We've heard stories such as in the field of agriculture and farming. Right, well, thank you very much to all the participants in our roundtable discussion, our last roundtable discussion for the day. Thanks for